In this new video, let's work on the animation of the previous problem. So basically we want to add the transporters. We want to also represent the stations, the distances, and we want to label our parts. So let's start. So first, let's use like a basic layout. And now let's add the different stations. So let's send to the back. And now let's add station, the arrival station, the workstation A, B, C, and the exit station. So for that we need to add the transfer, the animate transfer toolbox. Let's add the stations. So first, the arrival station. Let's place it at the beginning. Please notice that the parking is activated. So that means that if we activate the parking, if the transporter is idle, we will be able to visualize it in our station. And if you please notice that in the middle of the station there is like a seize point. That's the parking. So if you wanna like rearrange it, that's possible. So now let's add workstation A, B, C, and the exit station. Okay, so now in each station we want to add resources. So let's go to the resource animation. Let's modify the library. So I'm going to use the machine library. And now let's find a good picture for the animation. So let's use these two pictures. So the first one is when the resource is busy, and the second one is idle. In this particular problem, we don't need to assign pictures to the inactive and fail because we don't have schedules and we haven't added failures in our model. So let's assign the resource, resource A, sys area. So this is our resource A. Now let's copy and paste the picture. But remember that we need to modify the resource. This is going to be the resource B. And the last one, it's resource C. Okay, so we have added the stations and the resources. Now let's drag the queues. This is queue for workstation A. This queue, the request is when the entity is done. So we want to visualize when the part is waiting for the forklift in order to move to the next station. Now for workstation B, so let's add the queue for the process and the queue when we are requesting, when the entity is requesting the transporter. Same idea at workstation C. All right. And we're missing the request at the beginning when parts arrive. All right. Okay, so now let's include the distances. So basically we want to connect our stations. So we need this connector distance. So let's start with the arrival station and workstation A. It's important to be sure that we're using the correct matrix. So in this case, it's forklift.distance, because by default, sometimes you will find a different identifier. So it's important to make sure that you're using the correct matrix. So the one that we have, it's correct. And now let's assign the stations. So it's from arrival station to workstation A. So if we want to rearrange this line, we need to add more points. So let's add 5 points. And now we will be able to get a better design. This is just cosmetic. Okay. So now let's connect A with station arrival with station B, arrival with station C, and arrival with exit. We gotta make sure that all of our stations are connected. Again, we need the 5 points, 5 or more points. That's up to you. Okay, so let's continue connecting our stations. Arrival with C. Let's add the points. And the arrival with the exit station. Now we need more points. So let's try 6 points. And we're done connecting our first station. Now let's move with workstation A. So we want to connect A with B. Let's add more points. In this case, 4 points are enough. Now let's connect A and C, and A and the exit station. So let's use 6 points. And A with the exit station. We need 5 points. Okay, so now let's continue in workstation B. So we want to connect B and C. Please notice that workstation B is already connected with station A and the arrival. So that's why we're just connecting it to the workstation C and the exit station. So we need 6 points. And now let's connect B and the exit. 5 points. Okay, and now let's connect our last station, which is the C station. So we just need to connect it to the exit station. And let's use 5 points. Maybe you're asking why 5 points if you just can see 3. That's because Arena counts the points at the extreme points. Those points are the ones that are connected to the stations. Okay, so we're done connecting distances. So now let's add the transporters, and remember that we need to label our entities. So let's start with the transporters. So let's go to the animate transfer transporter, and we need a new library. So let's add the vehicle library. Let's use the forklift. So we have this forklift when it's idle. So if you notice the busy state in the animation, we cannot see like a part in our forklift. So maybe I'm just gonna add like a box in order to represent that our forklift it's actually is loaded. I'm not gonna like spend a lot of time here. I just wanna add like a square. But if you wanna like improve the animation, that's fine. And the identifier is forklift, and let's place it here. So this is the picture that we're gonna see, and now let's add the entity pictures. So let's add entity, and we need to add 3 different pictures. Let's use the basic process library, and let's add the yellow ball. And basically we just wanna add a number. Let's increase the font size. So that's for part 1. We have added the number, and now I'm gonna modify the value. This is basically the name that I'm gonna use when I'm assigning the picture. So I'm just gonna call it, let's call it part 1 pic. Now let's add one more. So for this one, let's add the number 2. And let's call it part 2 pic. And finally, part 3. And let's call it part 3 pic. Let's place it here. If you wanna add a like this picture for the 3 of them, so you need like to add them in different like in different shelves. So you will need to replicate this one, but this time it's not necessary. Okay, so before we continue, remember that we need to assign the entity picture, because even though we have created those entity pictures, but so far we haven't assigned those entity pictures to our entities. So let's go back to the this assign, and here we're going to create an attribute, and that attribute is going to be the entity picture. We're going to call it part picture. And given that we have like 3 different parts, remember that we need to use the part index. But so far we haven't created this set, so we need now to add a set called part picture, and we need to add our 3 entity pictures. So part picture will be created in sets, Let's add a new one. So it's part picture, and the type is not resource. It's entity picture. So now we need to add the members. In case that you don't remember the name, so you just need to go back to our entity. This is like a library where we created the entities picture, and we assign the name. So it's part 1 pick, part 2 pick, and part 3 pick. So let's go back to our set. And now let's add the names. So it's part 1 pick, part 2 pick, and part 3 pick. So now we have assigned correctly those entity pictures. So the last step will be to add a couple of labels. So just in order to indicate the workstation. So workstation A. The same for workstation B. Okay. The exit. Workstation C. And the last one will be the arrival. This is the part's arrival. All right. So we're done creating resources, adding the queues, the station distances, transporters, and we have labeled our entities. So let's run the model and let's check that everything is working correctly. It is important to decrease the speed of the animation because if you don't do that, then you won't be able to make sure or to verify if your animation is working or not. So we see our truck at the forklift transporting one part from arrival to workstation A. So once the part arrives, it's a part 1, if you see, it has the number 1. Please notice that the transported, it's a part at workstation A, and then we have a second transporter. So as you see, our transporters are moving parts to different workstations. I'm going to increase a little bit the speed. This is for parts 3. This is part 1 in Q. So there is a part 2 over here. One more part 2 here. So as you see, our model is working and we're able to visualize different parts at each workstation. As you can see, the transporters moving around. So if you want to improve your animation, that's possible. Maybe with more, with a better layout, especially for the workstations. But in general, this one will work. So have a nice day, and I will see you in our next video.